There we go. Hey guys, welcome on Facebook, welcome on YouTube, and welcome, well, wherever you want to watch this. My name is Frank Dorov, and today we are going to talk about something that a lot of people struggle with, freezing motion. And if you didn't get the trick, the joke a little bit, spring is in the air. Now, of course, it's almost spring, but there's something else. When we in the Netherlands say jump, we actually say spring. So it's a little bit of a word joke. So I hope you guys got that. Okay, so my name is Frank Dorov. Let me show you very quickly where you can find us and our information. That's, of course, on our own website and, of course, on YouTube. But if you're already on YouTube, you already know that, right? Because you're watching on YouTube, so why should I send you to YouTube? But we do appreciate it if you, of course, subscribe to our channel so we get more subscribers. Now, Digital Classroom has always been a dream of me. And why? Well, I love teaching you guys and I love being on a stage, but on a stage it's always a little bit distant. Now, I love teaching the workshops in the studio, but let's be honest, if you're in America or China or Japan or wherever you want to go, it's a little bit difficult to come to our studio in Emmeloord. So we wanted something in between, not really a stage show where you can't input anything, but not a real workshop, because we also sell our tutorials, of course, see our website. Another thing was that I wanted to do something that really challenged myself. So every time I do a digital classroom, there is a theme, like today, freezing motion, but I didn't prepare anything. I don't know how the model looks in dress. I don't know what she is capable of in this case, because Brenda actually is here for, I believe, the second time, right? So she did our test shoot, and this is haar vuurdoop, as we say in the Netherlands. This is the trial by fire. Let's see if she can perform. Talking about making your model look at ease and getting a little bit more confidence, right? This is not the thing to do. Anyway, so of course, when you do something like this, you do need support. And over the last 10 plus years, I believe, or 8 years, how long did we do Digital Classroom now already, Annemiek?
8 seasons.
8 seasons. One of our main sponsors has always been BenQ. And I'm very big into monitors and into how you perceive your images, because let's be honest, you shoot your images and you want to make sure that your images look right. So a lot of the questions we actually get in from you guys is, what kind of monitor should I buy? Now, my advice here is super simple. Of course, it's sponsored by BenQ, so I would highly recommend checking out BenQ. But the other thing is actually, if you want to buy a new monitor, there are a few things that you have to be careful for. The first thing, of course, is if you're a gamer, you have to look at lag and light output. However, if you're a photographer or a videographer, that isn't that important. The lag, it's not really that important. The light output can actually be in your disadvantage because we were using a digital system. So that means if you have a lot of light output and you want to turn that down, it will cost you a little bit of your dynamic range. This is why photography monitors often look a little bit boring next to the gaming monitors. Not a high gloss screen, but just a nice matte screen with a little bit less light output, but nice vibrant colors. And that's actually what we need. Now there are also different color spaces, like for example sRGB, Adobe RGB, and there's something that you may or may not have heard of, and that's the P3 color space. Now sRGB is small, Adobe RGB is bigger, and the P3 is somewhere in between. So when you don't have the budget for an Adobe RGB monitor, get one with a P3 color space. They are better than sRGB. And when you calibrate the monitors, this is one of the things that I love about BenQ, that they have hardware calibration options. If you calibrate your monitor, in the end the calculations will be done correctly, so you will have proper colors. Now another sponsor for many years, and actually we started distributing their products last year, is of course Rogue. I'm not going to tell you anything about Rogue. You already know Rogue, right? Expo Imaging. It's one of the best manufacturers in my opinion for creative stuff for speedlights and round strobes. And I'm using their umbrella lately all the time, the black umbrella with sleeve, and it's an amazing device to control your lighting for next to nothing in budget. It actually replaces a $1,000 softbox at the moment, so imagine that. And it retails for about 70 euros in fiber, so it doesn't break that easily. So Rogue, of course, also the magnetic system for speedlights. So Rogue always there in our studio, always or with an umbrella or with a magnetic system. And recently we added, of course, Cascable. Now you might wonder like, hey Frank, is this the commercial part? No, it's not. This is actually also the questions that you guys ask, because normally I don't show these logos. I just continue and I just show them in a video. So why do I do this today? Very simple. I started using the iPad Pro a while ago, shooting tethered with a cable. And every trade show we are, every time I show it, people go like, excuse me, what are you using? An iPad? shooting tethered. Why? The reason, guys, is very, very simple. I can't afford any failures during a show or during a workshop or even during a photo shoot. So I want something that's stable, that when it goes wrong, I can just run through it and reset the app or reset the iPad and it immediately works. Up until now, on the iPad, it was only possible to do this wirelessly. And wirelessly, let me be very clear, it always works in your bedroom, in your living room, or in your own studio, up until the client comes in and then it just fails. Yeah, been there, done that way too many times, and I don't want that problem in the back of my head when I'm doing a show or a workshop or a shoot. So, with wire, always awesome. And of course, you want to make sure that all your colors come over. So another sponsor of us and partner for many, many years is Calibrite. Also here, we get a lot of questions. And again, today we're going to answer those questions. So one of the questions they always ask, like, Frank, which color checker should I buy? If I do a little bit of video, should I buy the Duo or should I buy the Standard? Let me be very clear. There are two color checkers at the moment. And the one is for photography. And there's one that's actually for video, and there's one that's the Duos. Actually, there are three. Now, the difference between the two is actually very simple. The red cord or a blue cord. I'm just kidding with you. So when I open up the normal color checker, you see this. And in essence, this is the only important part. This part, I never got. It's more like the creative stuff. And if I do a color calibration, I want to make sure that my colors are right, and I don't want to tint it. And the other part is, of course, for white balance. Now, in all honesty, I never opened the white balance part, because if you open up this part, you can actually use one of these squares also to do your white balance. So it didn't make any sense for me. So when they released the Duo, Annelie, can you give me the Duo, please? So Annelie is now running to get the Duo, or running, it's more walking, because I don't want her to break her neck because of all the cables in the studio again. No, you didn't break your neck, you broke your leg. So this is the Duo, recognizable by the blue cord. And what the Duo does is it has photography and it has video. And this part is the video. You can set your white point, middle gray and black point, and your calibration for video. And when you open it up the other side, and this is the cool part, they got rid of that creative, which nobody ever used stuff, and now you have white balance and you have this. So this is without a doubt one of my favorite products. Now this one is a little bit less expensive than getting the normal color checker and video. So if you do video, I would highly recommend it. Now if you sometimes do video and photography, it is a lot more money, but with video it really helps to set that white point correctly and that black point, and of course also the colors. So I'm a little bit in doubt. If you don't do a lot of video, maybe go for the normal color checker. If you do it a little bit of both, then get the normal one. And if you are highly into photography and sometimes video, I know you guys are very critical, then of course do the blue one, or in other words the Duo. I highly recommend it and I love it without any doubt. Now, of course, you also want to tether to your iPad, and this is also where we get a lot of questions from. And the question I'm only going to answer today, because otherwise it would be way too long, is the question, hey Frank, I bought a cable and it doesn't work. What happens? Yeah, if your cable doesn't work, there can be a gazillion solutions for this. We've been doing tethering for I think over 15 years now. I started with that little yellow connector on a CRT monitor, and it looked like crap, but it worked. The thing that you often don't realize is that when you start tethering with a cable, it's not just connecting a cable. There's so much more. It's the software you use. It's drivers. For example, on certain Dell laptops, if you use a certain driver, tethering will never work. A hard drive works, tethering won't work. Install the right driver and it works like a charm. On Macs, it can be the left side or the right side. In Windows, it can be power management. But the one I want to talk about today, I want to give you for free the tip: check in your camera. There are always, or sometimes not, but most of the times there is a setting for the USB output. Now, normally when you connect your camera to a PC or a Mac, you will see a hard drive popping up on your desktop. That's when tethering won't work, because then your camera is in the so-called mass storage mode. It means it sees the camera as an external drive. And an external drive you can't shoot with. So you can throw it to somebody, but it doesn't make any sense, right? So go into your settings of your camera and change your USB settings to P2P or PC Connect. And now, when you connect it to the right software, you can start tethering. There's one thing for Sony users. With Sony users, you have to make 100% sure that you disconnect control with smartphone. If control with smartphone is connected and you set everything else up correctly, it will keep asking you, I don't connect, I don't recognize this cable. The cable is right, don't worry about it, it's your control for smartphone that's actually throwing in some errors. Another thing that a lot of people ask is, hey Frank, nowadays, right, we sell these backdrops from ClickPro Backdrops and we absolutely love them. You see them in 99.9% of my shots and all our customers love them. But recently we were on a trade show and somebody came up to me and said, Frank, I really like your backdrops, but no, that time is over, dude. We now have artificial intelligence and you just talk to the computer and it creates a backdrop. It's awesome. And in all honesty, yes it is. I use it sometimes now myself for clients if they want something in the backdrop or they want letters designed. Adobe Firefly is, as soon as it's going to be released, it's going to blow your minds. It's absolutely amazing for letter design and also for text to image. But the thing is, and you have to realize this very, very carefully, and this is also what I saw in the photographer's work who showed it to me. And that work was amazing, don't get me wrong. It was beautifully photographed, great lighting, but flat lighting. And this is where it goes wrong. When I photograph, and a lot of people love that style and also do that style, we love to use high contrast. And it means that your light fall off on your model is translated to your backdrop. You're going to see that today also during the live shoot. And another thing is, when you shoot from a certain angle, the backdrop will behave in a certain way. It will have light fall off. It will have converting verticals, or like this. If you shoot under an angle, the backdrop will be angled and will disappear in the distance. This is something that with a lot of composites is a dead giveaway that it isn't real. And sometimes you don't see it, but your eyes just know something is wrong and you don't see depth in that image. And that's one of the first things where you notice like, hey, I don't know why, it looks convincing, but I don't see any depth realization in that image. Now check very closely. If the model is shot from a low angle and all the verticals are right, there you go, that's a created backdrop. Now if the model is shot from a low angle and all the vertical angles go like this, probably your eyes will already see, of course, depth. And that's why we always advise guys in a studio, use real backdrops. And of course, let's be honest, artificial intelligence is awesome. Make sure that you also have at least one set where you can shoot against gray seamless or blue. Blue works great, where you can do cutouts. Don't use green, because green reflects back on the skin and there's no green in our skin. There is a little bit of blue, so blue is more like a natural color for our skin. So that means that the blue doesn't really point out in an image like, hey, that was photoshopped. The green does. There's also something else. We mostly see green, about 66%, 22% blue and 11%, 22% red and 11% blue. So blue is also the faintest color in our eyes and our perception. So that means that if you shoot against a blue backdrop, Photoshop will find it easily because it will just cut it out. But our eyes are very forgivable for blue. Okay, I think that's about all the questions you guys sent in about the partners and the sponsors. Oh, there's another question. Yes?
Do you use a color checker outside without using flash?
Okay, do I use a color checker outside without using flash? Actually, no. Believe it or not. Let me rephrase this. Yes/no. So, if I go outside and I'm using strobes, I'm always using the color checker. But when I'm outside and it is a certain way of shooting, let me put it this way, there is another solution. Now, of course, I already created profiles for my camera with the color checker. So I know when I'm outside, the profile of my camera is correct. We did a video recently, I will post that tomorrow online on my YouTube channel for Calibrite. And in that video, I show you the difference between two modifiers done with the same color checker, creating the same profile under exactly the same sort of setup. And you can see that between those two, and that's of course also the Hensel strobes, they're very, very stable in color. There's a slight difference, but it's hardly visible. When you see it without the profile, you go like, oh, that looks very, very different. And then you see the profile, and you see the two, and you could just interchange them. Now, the disadvantage of a color checker is, of course, pricing. These things aren't cheap. They're actually pretty expensive, but hey, worth every cent, don't get me wrong. But they are expensive. Oh, and by the way, they listen to me, look at this. Now you have a reflective surface, so you don't lose your color checker in a dark studio. I've been asking for that for years, but it's only on one side. So, but of course, this also helps. Anyway, so when I'm outside on location, anyway, can you give me one of the expo discs? Run, Forrest, run. You will get a chocolate. I just love teasing my wife a little bit. So, Anouk is my wife, in case you don't know. Okay, so what we use outside is, of course, the color checker. But the color checker, again, isn't that cheap. And when it's raining outside or it's a little bit musty, or musty, is that the right term? I think I did just said something really nasty. But anyway, so if it's a little bit moist outside, that's maybe better. Or there's a lot of sun, you will find out that the color checkers aren't 100% happy in those kinds of situations. Now, we have a solution for you guys, and that's actually also from Rogue Expo Imaging. And it has been on the market for many, many years, and we've been using it quite a while, and that's actually this. So if you want proper color balance, so it isn't a calibration tool for colors. This is color balance. You really have to see that difference. Color balance is the difference between red, green, and blue, so that takes away the color infections. Color hue, I don't know how you call it, but it makes the red, green, and blue equal in amount, so it looks natural, as the color should be. Creating a profile, that's actually what the color checker does. That is literally looking at all the colors, red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, and everything in between. And there are certain coordinates, an X, a Y, and a big Y, hue, saturation, and luminance, and those determined the color space. So if you go to sRGB, there are certain coordinates, Adobe RGB, Profile RGB, P3, etc. And that's what the color checker does. So the color checker really looks at every color singly and creates an ICC or DCP profile. This one is much simpler. You just go into your camera, you go to custom white balance, you place this and you don't have to screw it on. It just clicks on and it fits on almost every lens, so you only need one. It fits on your lens, you go to custom white balance, you point towards your model or your subject, press the shutter, or press OK depending on the camera. It will store that white balance, you take it off, you put it in your coat. It doesn't scratch, it doesn't deteriorate over time. It works like a charm, and it also works on your smartphone. Now, my smartphone shoots RAW, but it can't set custom white balance. So what I do is I hold it in front of my smartphone, I take one picture and I overexpose it slightly, and I store that as a RAW file. Then I do all my images I want to do another one, and then do all the images I want to do. And you already guessed it, when I'm in Lightroom, I select the first one, click on color balance, copy that to all the images until I see the next one, and continue. So this works like a charm outside, and this retails for about 50 euros. So that saves you a bundle of money. It's a much simpler way of calibrating, but because you already have the profiles for your camera in the studio and outside with the color checker, the next time you go out, you leave the expensive color checker at home, and you take the cheaper Expo disc with you, and you have proper white balance, which in most cases outside is the problem. It's not the colors, it's the color balance. And this one does the color balance like a charm, so it works like a charm. Okay, Anouk, any more questions?
No.
No more questions. Okay, so are you ready, Brenda?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the first time she ever sees me doing digital classroom, and she looks at me like going like, are you a YouTuber? Right? No, right. Maybe. No, we're not. So, actually, when you broadcast on YouTube, are you a YouTuber?
Yes.
Maybe we are. Maybe we are a YouTuber. Let me decide it. Let me just hear it in the comments below. Is our channel a YouTuber? I guess so. So anyway, let's go to the studio and let's have some fun. And let's start very, very simple.
Don't forget the color checker.
Yes, I will do that at the end, Anouk. Okay, Brenda, if you want to stand in our set, please. Okay, Anouk will switch over to picture-in-picture mode. And let me start out very simple by using our umbrella. And let's place that a little bit closer to our model. Well, you can step a few steps forward. Perfect, look at that. Now, of course, we want to make sure that we have a nice lighting on our model, because although we're going to do motion, it's not like, okay, just throw the light somewhere and just do something. We still want to make sure that we get a nice look on our image and, of course, on our model. So, of course, I can do it straight on. Now, if you do it straight on, you have a lighting which we call the butterfly lighting, where you have a really nice thing under the nose. It looks absolutely awesome. The only thing is, don't do that with motion. Because if you do a butterfly lighting and the butterfly isn't really under the nose, it can look really weird, or the shadow will go wrong. So what I try to do with motion is do the opposite of the butterfly lighting, and that's actually side lighting. Now don't confuse this with Rembrandt lighting. Now with Rembrandt lighting, we want to have that triangle here. And that means that we have to place the light literally next to our model, so there's a little bit of light coming over her nose and just hitting it there. Now with Rembrandt lighting, we have exactly the same problem as with butterfly lighting when we start to make our model move. If you move too much with our Rembrandt lighting, it looks like crap, because if you move this, it's already terrible. When I take a shot and I'm doing Rembrandt lighting, it's literally like this. Okay, move a little bit. Oh, that's too far. Okay, go back. Yes, a little bit up. So when I tell move, that doesn't work, right? So we want to make sure that we use side lighting. And what does side lighting do? Very simple. Think about a white ball, a soccer ball on a white backdrop. Now imagine the white backdrop being totally white and the soccer ball lit from two sides with two huge softboxes on exactly the same setting. Do you see that it's a soccer ball? No. It's a flat disc. And you don't want a flat disc, right? You want to see depth. So think about this. When you disconnect one of the strobes and you move it, the other one, a little bit more to the side, do you see that we now get a shadow side and a lighter side? And that's when it starts to get interesting, because that's the point where we start to see depth. So in this case, we're going to move this light, not to the side for Rembrandt, we're going to place it here, which looks absolutely awesome. Now, okay, now we can start shooting, right? Oh, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet, so wait. There's another thing that's really important. Now, when we start to use freezing motion, there's a certain thing that you have to understand, and that is flash duration. Now, every strobe has a certain flash duration. Often you see this as a T05 or T01 amount. The faster that number, the faster the flash duration. So that means if you see 1/2000th of a second, that could be interpreted as that is your maximum shutter speed. It's not your shutter speed. In the studio we're still shooting on 125th, but your flash duration is the peak of light. So in other words, if you don't use your strobe, the whole image would be black at 125th of a second. I'm going to show you that in a second. But when you use strobe, that light is actually hitting your model, registering and then dying out. We call that the cutoff and raise of the strobe. And that's really fast. Now for freezing motion, I always advise to get something between 2500 and up. Because with 2500 you can freeze motion, and anything up is even better. So how do you know how this works? Because there's another problem. There we go, and a lot of problems today. If I place my light on full power, it could very well be that the flash duration is actually slower than on the lower setting. And on the lower setting it can be even not optimal, because maybe it's at 75%. Now I'm using a light meter for this. And this is the Psychonic 858. And one of the huge advantages of the 858 is that I can actually meter the flash duration. So that means that I can see what my lights are doing. Now, just for the sake of the argument for today, I have an older Hansel strobe, which already is a really great strobe. And we have the Expert 500s. And the Expert 500s are the recent strobes. Now, today we're also going to meter how those strobes perform. So we're going to set it on metering my speed. And, oh, wait a minute. Before I start metering, there's something else. Oh, my. Now, normally when you do a photo shoot, what is the first thing you determine? Of course, your lighting, your styling, your backdrop, but also the depth of field. Now, when we start freezing action, do you agree with me that it doesn't make any sense to shoot it on 2.8? Because, well, on 2.8 you probably don't hit your focus. So we want to make sure that we shoot this at least at f11 or preferably f16. So make sure you get an expo disc and clean your sensor. Is that possible with an expo disc? Yes, it is. If you overexpose it by 2 or 3 stops, you have a totally wide image, and shoot it on f22 and you can see where the dust blobs are. But that's something for another video. So let's start with the light on, well, let me just try it on full power. Close your eyes, please, because this is going to hurt. 32.0, and my speed is 2150th. So I'm already within the realm of freezing motion. But that's on full power. Let's go down to, let's say, 75%. Ogen dicht. We have to, it's a very older strobe, so it has to, it's like an old man. It has to really, there we go. 1/1400ths. So that's not good. So let's go up. That's even better. Because with this strobe, it's a little bit on the top end. There we go. Getting there. And there we are back on full power. And that's on the fastest setting. So that's awesome. Let me try that one more time. Do you like the strobe? Not really like, right? No. 22.9, so that's a little bit too much. So let's turn it down. And let's turn it down even more. So I now found out that in the middle part of this strobe, I'm shooting at 1500ths of a second, at the top one at about 2400ths of a second. So now I'm on almost the lowest setting. And let's just see how this works. And we're going to do the same thing later with the experts. And of course this one has to reach or had to dump its power, so it takes a little bit of time. There we go. So this is on the lowest setting. And there we go, 748. So that's very, very low. Okay, so in this case, the strobe has to be on full power to be optimal. I'm not going to put it on full power because I get a little bit too much light at that point. There we go. This is much better. 11.6. So let's go to f16. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I can shoot at ISO 100, f16. So that means that I have a lot of depth of field. So that will be awesome for freezing motion. Okay, so let's see. Now in the screen you can already see Cascable, which is the software we're using. Annemiek, are we in split screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, can you look a little bit down? Don't have to move yet. Okay, there we go. Okay. So if I'm correct with my light, it should be okay in lighting. And there we go. As you can see, it's an interesting lighting setup. I love the contrast on the side, and because I'm using an umbrella, we get that really nice backlighting. Now if you go like, ooh, on the backdrop, I don't really like the light this way. There's a very simple solution for this. Don't change the distance of the light, just change the angle of the light. And by changing the angle, you will have a slightly softer effect on the backdrop. So, but now motion, right? Oh my. Did you practice motion?
No.
No. Ooh, but you're not wearing heels, so that already helps. Okay, Brenda, do me a favor. Can you turn that way? And then when I say yes, turn around very violently at 3. Are you ready?
Whole body?
Yeah, whole body. And just shake that hair. 1, 2, 3. And there we go. And this is one of the things that I love. Every single image will be different. Every single image will be better or worse. And that's the cool part, because you can't ever replicate it. Now, in all honesty, that's just between us, don't tell Brenda. One time we had a model, but that was a professional ballet dancer. And she jumped up, and I took the shot, and everybody swears it's Photoshop. And she's literally sitting in the air like she's sitting on a chair, like going like, You can see it on my portfolio. I took the shot, and I was just going like, oh my, I'm so happy I got this one, because you can never do that again. And she said, how many times? And we literally shot it 6 times in a row. And then she said, okay, I'll also do something else. And she was able to do the same jump every single time. Now with normal models, and when you normally pose, that's not going to happen. They will just do it, and you just hope it will be fine. Now when I look at this shot, there's a little bit of stuff growing out of her hair, so I don't want that. So Brenda, just slightly that way. Come towards me, I don't bite. And turn around again. And then when I say yes, turn around very violently. And there we go, 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, I just love this. Again, different. Now, what you can coach your model slowly is coach her about motion. So just tell her, okay, so now we have a lot of images from the side, and this is the cool part. She also sees the images. So now what I'm going to tell her is, okay, I also want your chest to move too, because now it looks like almost like a Linda Blair, where you go like, you know what I mean with Linda Blair, right? You know what I mean with Linda Blair? What do I mean?
The face like this.
The Exorcist.
Yeah. It's a
She
movie.
knows. That's awesome. Yes, so when I say Linda Blair, I actually mean The Exorcist, where her head, I can't do it. Her head just turns around a few times. If I do it, it would come off like a cork probably, but hey, you don't want that look. So what I want is her chest also to turn. Are you ready? Don't break. Don't break, because we still have a few sets to go. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, sorry, that was my mistake. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Way better, way better. Do a few more. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice. Okay, it was a little bit too early. 1, 2, 3, go. Wow. And a few more. 1, 2, 3, go. Now look at that. Those images are awesome. Do you like them?
Yeah.
Me too. You are awesome. Now this is one of the other things. Don't tell Brenda. Even if she doesn't do right, I will still tell her she does awesome. And you know why? The more I tell my model she does awesome, the more she will be at ease. And with this kinds of stuff, she has to trust you blindly. Because maybe at one point, if somebody has a mouth that doesn't really look nice, I will ask them, and with her it's great, but I will ask her like, hey, can you scream without making any sound? And if you don't have that trust between you and your model, she won't scream. She will just go like, just a little bit open. But no, she has to like, wow, really go like this. So also when she sees an image that she doesn't really like and go like, I don't know, delete the image. And just show her, look, the image is deleted, but I'm also emptying the trash. So she trusts you blindly that if something goes wrong, those images will never be saved. Can you do it the other way around? And this is also something I sometimes try. Sometimes you have links draaiende melk and rechts draaiende melk. Hè? That's Dutch. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. The other hand, just hold it in front of your body when you turn. That one? Yeah, the verste. Yeah, klopt. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Ooh, that's nice. That last one, that's one that I really like. Now, from there on, you can start fine-tuning it. So, let's say, take one step that way. There we go, towards me. Perfect. And now do the same thing again. 1, 2, 3, go. Look, and now I placed her a little bit in the middle of the backdrop, and this is the first image where I go like, ooh, wow, this is really nice. This is one of those images where you go like, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to start retouching this. But then you start thinking, and you go like, you know, I really like this image, but I'm also spending my time behind YouTube, looking at images of Frank. I want something a little bit more spectacular. Now, you know about artificial intelligence, right? And you know that you can do a lot with that stuff. And one of the things that a lot of people do is add lens flares to images. And of course, when you add lens flare to images, you get a little bit more mood in your images, a little bit more atmosphere. Let's just be honest, lens flares rock. They're absolutely awesome. So let's do that without any Photoshop, because there's one photographer who once said very long ago, why fake it when you can create it? I believe that was me when I was still young and reckless. Anyway, on my camera, I have a little filter, and it's called a black diffusion filter. Now, you can get them from many brands. I have them from K&F Concept, and the nice thing is, it's a magnetic system, so you can just click it on my camera, and I'm done. Do make sure that they're not crooked on, because that is also possible. Just click them on, and then you click. On the other hand, if they're a little bit angled, you get really nice effects. You don't want them sometimes you do. So also experimenting maybe with how you place your filter, maybe by incident or by, how do you call it, on purpose, that you place them a little bit weird. It could help. So how does lens flare work? Very simple. We have one strobe over here, and it's a blue one. And when I would normally set this up, I of course also want my model to be hit with the light. So I'm gonna place it here. Gonna go a little bit down. There we go. And of course we're gonna aim it at our model, of course. And we're not gonna meter this one. This is what you know from me. This is cooking with light. Just a little bit of experimenting. Just look down a little. No, I don't have to turn yet. Just look down. There we go. Okay. Just do one step that way, to the left. Yes. Ooh, her left is my right. Okay, so there's not enough light coming from this, so let's turn that up. There we go. We of course need a lot of light for this. Awesome. But now as you can see, there's not really a lens flare. It's not even a hint of a lens flare. You just see some blue. So I need more output. But I don't have more output because that one is already on full power and I need it for f16. We don't want the model to be hit with the blue per se. So what we're going to do is we're going to place this light actually next to our model. And I hope Emmeloord has a nice camera viewpoint for this. Okay. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my model. I'm going to turn my lights. I'm going to place it next to her. I'm going to look at my model. I can see a little bit on her cheeks. I'm going to turn it away. And I want a little bit on her cheeks. And there we go. So I turned it all the way from my model. Put it on full power. And now let's see what happens. Make sure that I see it in my viewfinder. And then take it out. And there we go. Now for the first time we have that really nice creamy look on my image. Now when I look at the front light, I go like, maybe it could be a little bit less, right? And you also have a little bit of playroom. So let's add a little bit of mood by just turning this down, let's say half a stop. Okay, do the same thing. There we go. Really nice. And there we go. So now by overexposing the sides and lowering the front, I'm creating a little bit of that almost in a tomb-like look, what you see in movies. Now let's add a little bit of motion to that. So turn around it. Don't hit my strobes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. And there we go. Now we have that little bit of extra motion, that extra a little bit of mood. And you see it's very, very subtle. But this is what I like about that KNF filter. If I take it off, let me show you. It's just too subtle. So, are you ready? Let's do it again. Ja, geef niet hoor. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. So this is without the filter. As you can see, it's also nice, but it just misses that nice little definition of the lens flare. Okay? You're going to be so freaking dizzy tonight. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Nice. And now you can also leave it a little bit in the top, as you can see here. Okay, so this is what you can do with just normal lighting, or in other words, with an umbrella. Now, for the next set, did you bring out the clothing or not? No, right? Okay, so we're just going to change lighting setups. So we're going to do that really fast. So let's take this one out. And let's turn the blue one off for now. I'm going to place the blue one here. Okay, umbrella can be gone out. And we're going to switch over to an expert and a strip light. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because a lot of people ask me like, Frank, what should I get for strobes? How much money should I spend? Are expensive strobes really worth it? Now, in all honesty, when we meter the older Hensels, they are still pretty fast. But this is a totally different beast. Over the years, I've metered a lot of strobes, and a lot of strobes are really fast, but they are incredibly expensive. What I found is that the experts are in a price range where they are affordable. Price range Elingram, a little bit less expensive than Profoto. So it's in that middle class where it's still affordable and it's not like over the top expensive. But they are so incredibly fast in a usable range. So when you see certain advertisements of strobes, they often claim like, hey, we can get up to 1/8000th of a second. But you don't read it's on the lowest setting. And on the lowest setting, 2.8, 1.0, whatever, you can't really freeze motion because the depth of field. So we switched over to our strip light, which is a totally different light source. I'm going to lower that a little bit. And we're going to start out at full power. And you will find out that this strobe also recharges a lot faster when I go down. Up, all strobes are fast. Down, it's a little bit of a difference. Okay, this is on full power. Almost 1/3000th of a second, which is already much faster than the other one. Let's go down 2 stops, just for fun. Ready. You see how fast that one goes? 1/5500th of a second. That's nice. Let's go down a little bit more. Half a stop down. Nice. A little bit over 5,000ths of a second. Let's go down. A little bit, 4,700. So let's find the sweet spot. Okay, a little bit over 5,500. There we go, 6,000ths of a second. Now, the highest we metered this is actually at around 8,000ths of a second. Now, it varies a little bit, of course, with light output. Now, the reason I'm not doing it on full power is because I also want to show you something else. I'm going to go down, just for the sake of it, to 7. And at this point, I can't get that F16 anymore because I'm using a strip light. But let's just aim the strip light directly at my model. There you go, 5.62 at 6,000th of a second. That's nice. Let's go to ISO 200. Let's go for ISO 400. 400 is 11.2, which is okay for depth of field. So let's just shoot it on F13 by giving it 1 click extra. Okay, and that's ISO 400, because I want to make sure that I have the depth of field. And again, a strip light really eats away your light. Okay, you don't have to move at the moment. Just want to show you how it looks. So this is the new setup. As you can see, it's much more focused light. And it looks, and you can't see that on YouTube, but it looks a little bit sharper. And this is one of the things that we always wondered, like, how is that possible? Because how can you make something look a little bit sharper by just shooting with a different strobe? Over the years, we did do a lot of investigation about it, and we think it has something to do with a little bit of micro contrast, and that's a little bit higher when you have a faster flash duration. It could be total nonsense, but it's all the time when we use strobes that are much faster than the other ones that we literally see a little bit of extra sharpness. And of course, that's something that can be explained by micro movements or whatever, although on those shutter speeds, flash durations, I don't know, but it's just very obvious. Okay, can you turn away? And when I say yes, turn around very violently. There we go, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, totally different light setup. But one of the cool things about this lighting setup is actually something else. Are you prone for epilepsy?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's not a joke. Really? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, for the guys out there, if you are prone to epilepsy, don't look at the screen when I'm starting to shoot. It's not a joke. We're going to do something on a really high, how do you call it, high frame rate, just to see how fast the strobes can keep up. This is almost the fastest that my Sony can shoot. And to you, Brenda, can you look straight at me? Yeah. Okay, now, this is the part where we start to work with somebody that can't move. So let's say I looked at all my images from Brenda and I go like, Brenda, I really like you, but they suck. They don't. They look great. So let's say they all suck, and it's not that she can't move or that it's not a nice girl, but somehow I can't get it right. Her timing is a little bit off. Sometimes it happens, right? Now, there's something that you can do if you have strobes that are fast enough, and that's shoot it in very fast motion. But let's be honest, if we shoot it in fast motion and we just go like 1, 2, 3, go, that's not fun, right? We want to make sure that we also leave some physical damage to our models. So I'm always asking my model, did you ever see the Muppet Show?
Yeah.
Do you know Animal?
I think so.
Yeah, that's the drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the drummer, right? Be careful when you say yes to me.
Oh.
And what I want you to do
No,
is,
I don't know it.
you don't know, okay, I'm going to explain it to you. What I want you to do is act like Animal. So you're not going to turn, but you're just going to hold your hands like this, and you're just going to... You don't have to scream, but if you want, you can scream without making sound. But I just want you to go totally berserk and just tilt your head and just throw your hair around, move your arms a little bit. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I just want you to go crazy until the strobe stops.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice. Okay, now, of course, as you can see here, 1 or 2 shots are awesome. Most of the shots are terrible. So, remember when I said that real nice strobes are really worth a while? This was fast, right? By the way, did you see how the raw files came in the iPad in Cascable with our IQwire cables? Isn't that freaking fast? Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Again, if you are prone to epilepsy, don't look now. 1, 2, 3, go. As you can see, my strobes didn't miss one shot. I did, but it just goes on and on and on. And this is on, I believe, 12 or 13 frames a second. This is the highest my camera can go. These are all 60 megapixel RAW files without any extra. This is not JPEG or whatever. This is the real deal. And I never saw a software package so stable and so fast in getting those images in. Now, between the images that are coming in, oh, they're already in. Look at that. Now, we are using boosters in our cables. And this is a 10-meter cable, 33 feet. And one of the most important things is, of course, that you want a stable connection. And this is why we have 2 boosters in the cable and IntelliConnect. Now, the IntelliConnects make sure that we always have a proper connection to our strobes, to the computer on the maximum bandwidth. The boosters make sure that we don't lose any data in between. So that means that the images don't stop coming in. If you lose data, it actually means you lose connection, and we don't want it, especially during something like this. Okay, so let's do it a little bit from the side. Let's see if that can be interesting. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you have fun?
Yeah.
There we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Don't fall. Nice, thank you so very much. Okay, for the next setup, we are going to do something else. Anouk is going to set that up. We're going to use something, and I'm going to freak everybody out by doing this. We're going to use Firecloth. And I'm going to tell you behind the camera why that freaks some people out, because Firecloth doesn't really exist. So anyway, can you set it up for the wind machine? And for you, if you don't have any other clothes, this is awesome. And of course for the Firecloth, Anouk. Okay, so let's go back to my camera. There we go, and to full screen. Okay, there we go. Let's see if we have any questions. You have the preset, I love my BenQ monitor. But of course you love the BenQ monitor. What's not to like about BenQ monitors? Now let's do commercial. BenQ monitors are just the best, right? Okay. 26,000 subscribers. Yes, you are a YouTuber. You know, Michael, that's the part that frustrates me the most. Why don't we have more subscribers? Why only 26,000? When you look online, there are a lot of channels that give you a lot less content than we do, and they have like 1 million subscribers. So I would like to ask you guys, do this for me. Tell everybody about our channel so we can grow and make sure that they subscribe. Now, if you are not subscribed, dude, girl, why? Or everything in between. Whatever you feel comfortable with, person or non-person or alien maybe, I don't know. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you get a notification when we do something new. I have to take a little bit of a drink and a little bit of a pause, but we will be right back after these messages. Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. My name is Frank Dorov, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking. And we started a Patreon. Now, what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed-off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out, and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So, if you like what we do, of course the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Doorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Okay guys, so we are back in our studio and we have something really cool. Now, I promise you guys, like, this is gonna freak some people out because they're gonna look after this setup was probably for something called a fire cloth. Now, in all honesty, so why doesn't it really is called fire cloth? Now, my first video for Calby 1, at that point still Calby training, of course I was very, very nervous over to America and I didn't know if I really would fit in those guys. Those were my heroes. Those were the guys that I looked up to. And I was just going like, probably they will just send me home after one take. And they go like, no, Frank, sorry. We totally misunderstood this. We thought you were a really good instructor, so let's go home. At the end is, of course, that after that I did almost all the Photoshop worlds except one where we couldn't make it. So, but they didn't skip me. So we did every single Photoshop world. We did a lot of videos for them. And of course, we still do a lot of workshops. But in my essence, I'm really shy and a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right. So while I was filming that, I knew that the material wasn't called firecloth. But I also remembered that when we bought it on a market, they actually labeled it as vuurdoek, fire cloth. And underneath there was the real name, organza. And at that point I was so nervous that I didn't really remember the name. So I just said, like, somebody asked me like, hey, what is, oh, this fire cloth. So with Calby training, I didn't realize how many people watch those videos. They got in so many questions like, hey, we saw Frank Dorov's video, we're looking for fire cloth and we can't find fire cloth anywhere. Yeah, that's probably explainable because fire cloth doesn't exist, only in my mind. There's a lot of stuff in my mind that doesn't exist, trust me. So what happened? The name of the material is organza, but it reflects like a fire cloth. That's why it's also called fire cloth, but don't look that up online because you can't find it. So why is that so interesting? Well, there's certain things in photography that really catches my eye. And one of the things, of course, is motion. I want my images to have a certain flow. And I still remember my talks with Jay Mizell when we talked about gesture. And I never got what Jay meant, like gesture. Jay, what do you mean with gesture? And how can a building have gesture? And I think he told me at that point, if you don't understand it, you're not ready to understand it yet. We have somebody in the Netherlands called Johan Cruyff, although we don't have him anymore. And he said certain things also, like soccer is a very easy game. It's 11 guys and the one with the most points win. And that's soccer. And he's absolutely right. And if you didn't win, you weren't good enough. all those kinds of stuff. And when Jay told me, like, if you don't understand gesture for a building, you're not ready to understand it yet, because as soon as you understand what gesture for a building is, you will go like, oh, I got it. And he only gave me the tip. He said, look at your own fashion photography work, because there is gesture there. And then I started to think, you know what I always try to do in my images? Get a certain flow. This is also why I started out with the artificial intelligence, with your backdrops. If you have a certain flow in your images, the images look nice. You are guided through the images, through the flows. And you have to realize that in the Western world, we read from the left top to the bottom right. So if you, like I do, have a very, very strong red logo, put it on the left side of your images. Now, when you look at YouTube, the logo is actually on the right side. This is a certain other reason, which on YouTube doesn't really matter, but we place the logo there. Now, on all my images, all my photos, you will see that the logo is on the other side. And that's because you are being trapped by looking at that image. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, that's the gesture of an image. The gesture of an image is how it flows, how it gives up its character. So a gesture of a building is it majestic or is it timid? Is it tall or is it small? And how does it behave? And you as a photographer are not probably realizing for the fully extent how you can influence the gesture of a building or of a certain object or a certain person by just changing the angle of your lighting, but also changing the angle of your camera. And this is why I don't believe that something like ClickPro backdrops will be the end of the story when artificial intelligence starts. It's the same with photography. A lot of people tell me, Frank, it's a dying art form at the moment because artificial intelligence is there. Let me tell you one thing about artificial intelligence that I found out when working with it. As a musician and recording my own music, there is a thing called being a producer. Now, let me make the fine distinction between a producer and an artist. The producer knows everything about music, but he can't play a note in this case. Most producers can, but in this case. Let's say I'm a producer that knows everything about a hit song, but I can't play any instruments. I have this amazing band in the studio. Let's take, for example, Polyphia, who can play anything. And now, in this case, if you're a Polyphia fan, I'm too a Polyphia fan, so what I'm going to tell you now doesn't make any sense for them because they are really, really smart. But let's say it's a band like Polyphia. So, really great musician, but they're very, very dumb. They can't do anything themselves. But as soon as I put in a coin, oh man, they can play whatever I tell them. So now I go to my guitarist and I tell him, play something in the style of Dream Theater, but do it a little bit faster, a little bit on the edge, add some harmonics. And he starts to play something and I go like, maybe change it to the key of A. Yeah, that sounds great. Now the drummer comes in and the drummer says, yeah, but now I know enough. I hear my guitar player and I start to play the drums. The bass comes in and goes, yeah, thank you for that idea, Frank. Now I got it. And then the singer comes in and he goes like, yeah, oh, wait a minute, Frank. You don't have to help me anymore. I know. Now, when they produce a hit song after that, am I the creator or am I just somebody who gave him an idea? And this is for me the distinction between artificial intelligence art, text to image, and being a real artist. However you try it, artificial intelligence is a collaboration between a human and a computer, where the computer does 99% of the work and the human only gives input. So for me that doesn't work. And the other thing is, it still looks artificial, also with converting verticals. Now when you render a whole scene, it can look convincing. But photography isn't about being convincing, isn't about shooting a model as a superhero. It's about shooting that model as a superhero. So although I can create the backdrops with artificial intelligence, I can never get a Brenda in artificial intelligence. So your client will still come to you. There may be some things that can change. For example, if Brenda now comes to me and goes like, hey Frank, I really love to have a sword in my hand with this outfit, but I don't have a sword. Now artificial intelligence can be awesome because I just give her a broomstick, hold it, and then I tell Adobe Firefly, create a sword in the style of, and I can fine-tune that. The sword comes out, and now I can start layering my light on that sword, start adding a little bit of glow on that sword, then cut it out, and then give it in the hands of my model and create a unique piece of art. I found it out this morning when I did retouching for a band. They wanted a backdrop with a a cheering audience just for their commercial shot. So we did a lot of band photos against that blue backdrop that you saw today. But they also wanted one with cheering audiences in the back, just a cutout of them with some lighting behind them and the name of the band underneath. Normally, a few months ago, I would go on stock photography and pay money for, of course, a photo of an audience. And there's a wide selection, but there's never a wide selection that hits the nail on the head with exactly what you want. I went to Adobe Firefly, just typed in audience from a concert, from behind with a little bit of backlighting. 4 images came up, I didn't like one, refresh. 4 images came up, I really liked one, started refining that image. This is where it gets really creepy and freaky. That one was exactly what I wanted, and that one I placed behind my band and I'm done. So it can speed up your workflow enormously, but it can never replace my work as a photographer, because how did the band get there, right? You get my idea, right? It can be difficult when you, for example, design clothing in the computer, and now you can also get your model out of the computer. And this is the part where I think a lot of fashion photographers will actually go bankrupt or just stop existing, because now you can design the dress in the computer, change the colors and just put the dress digitally on a digital model and tell the model literally how to pose. And if you want to shoot it in Dubai, I can do it from here. If you want to shoot it in Egypt, I can do it from here. Heck, you know what? Let's do a whole fashion shoot over the whole world, in every city, in front of every famous building. I can do that in 20 minutes now. Not 20 minutes per image maybe. You know what I mean, right? So that's the part where it's going to be a lot of carnage for photographers. But let's be honest, there are still people that paint nowadays, right? And with photography, why the heck should you paint? Because photography is way better, right? There's still people that draw. Why should you draw? We still read comic books, right? Movies are way better. Or are comic books better? At comic books I can really explode a whole city, which I can't do in a movie. You see where I'm going? It will be a different art form. I think it shouldn't be labeled as photography, but mixed art or whatever, or collaboration. So that's about artificial intelligence. How did I came up to that? I don't know. I'm too dumb for that. That's why I need a ChatGPT assistant, Annemiek.
That's for text, yeah.
That's for text.
Writing scripts, yeah. Okay.
But what if I tell the artificial intelligence to read all my books and learn everything about my books, and then start teaching my workshops?
I don't know.
But then why should a student come? Why not make an artificial intelligence and just send that to the workshop for me? It's going to be interesting. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
There we go.
Don't think too much about it.
Don't think too much, then your mind will explode and you need an artificial intelligence. Okay, so for this setup, I'm going to use something that I hardly use, and that's called a wind machine. You can also use something where you can just wiggle around with a piece of cardboard or whatever, but in this case, just use a wind machine. And this is a really nice one because it goes up and down in speed. And that's nice because then you can literally experiment with it. Now, with the fire cloth, we're going to do that in a moment. Can you please move forward a little bit that way? Perfect, this looks great. Let's add a little bit of red from the side. I want to make it a little bit more stunning and interesting. So let's add some red. As Chucky said, are you ready, Red? Let's move it all the way forward for some really nice lens flares. Okay, let's first see if everything is still connected correctly. Okay, we get a little bit of too much light from this one. Let's lower that for now. There we go. Okay, let's turn on the wind machine. And let's just first move your hair. So look, you don't have to move anything, so just look down. Chin down just a little bit. So as you can see, this already looks really, really nice because now you can see the hairs moving around. But what if I turn it off? Now the hairs don't move anymore. It works. I don't know why. Can you place it over your head, the material, and do it a little bit double? Yeah, a little bit like that. No, not too much. I still want to see you. But you have to look through it, like a veil. Yeah, there we go. That's what I mean. And then all the way. Awesome. And just play with it while you look away from the light a little bit. No, towards, that's better. And just make sure that we don't see any nude hands or whatever. Everything has to be covered. Okay, so I'm gonna first take the shot like this. Now, as you can see at this moment, it's not really there yet. The thing is, often models are really nervous when they do photo shoots, right? And you want to loosen it up and you want to create something that's a little bit more interesting or a little bit more oomph. So what we're going to do is we're going to place this light all the way to the side. And we're going to make sure that we get a little bit more contrast in the shot. And there we go. So now we have a darker backdrop and we already see our model. And now when we start adding the wind, we can create something that's really nice and interesting. And we can start asking the model to look down a little bit. There we go, look at this. Nice. And you can even shoot into that light source, the red one for example, and create something really interesting. More flat lighting. Oh, one moment. There we go. Look at that. A little bit too much maybe. Okay, look that way, all the way down. Perfect. And let's just open it up. Oh, sorry, close down a little bit to f16. There we go, love it. But I like the contrast a little bit more, so let's shoot away from the light. There we go, love it. A little bit more from the top. And a little bit more down. Nice. Okay, cool. So as you can see with Firecloth, because we're using the the organza material, because we're using light from the back and we're using light from the front, you can actually create that nice wraparound effect. The red, of course, enhances the look of the organza material because it's also red, and the strip light just gives you that nice contrast, because with the strip light, in opposition to the umbrella, I have a really narrow beam of light. So a big softbox is round, or an octagon of course. A strip light is actually very narrow, so that means that if I don't want light on the backdrop, I can just move that light away from the backdrop. Now, what if you want that light on the backdrop, but you still love this look, right? This is where strip light comes in really handy. Because a strip light, we can also aim like this. And then just angle it. Do the same thing again. You're having loads of fun, right? Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay, let's get a little bit more of that lens flaring by moving this one even closer to our model. Aiming it a little bit more towards me. Ooh, this is nice. Look at this. Okay, look very serious, no laughing. There we go, awesome, wow. Close your eyes. Nice, thank you so very much. Okay, so let me sit behind the computer and explain what's going on, and then we're gonna go for the next setup, where we're actually gonna do jumping. And what if your model isn't able to jump? Do we kick her or do we do something else? I can already tell you we're going to do something else. Okay, let's quickly change to my camera. Okay, so questions. First of all, I want to do something else. Now, we talked about that flash duration and that I use a light meter for this. I did forget one thing, and that's the thing, we don't prepare these kinds of broadcasts. They're all very, how do you call it, very spontaneous. We just have a team and we just play with it. And I believe 5 minutes before we started, we actually, oh, maybe organza with a wind machine, that's going to be awesome. So we don't really know what we're going to do. So sometimes I forget to tell you guys something. So my light meter has the ability to meter the flash duration, which is absolutely awesome, but you don't really need that. And the thing is, if you don't have a light meter that does this and you still want to know like, hey, I now know from Frank that there are certain settings on my strobe where the freezing motion, the freezing power is very high or very low. How do I find that out? Well, that connects to the next question. If you want to make sure that you shoot on the best setting of your strobes, get a fan. A real nice normal fan. Put it on the lower setting or the highest setting, it doesn't really matter. Put your camera on a tripod, a KNF Concept tripod or Benro, it doesn't really matter. Put it on the tripod and shoot images on every setting of your strobe. In Lightroom you can very clearly see which of those images have the sharpest blades of the fan, because that's the setting with the most stopping power. It's very, very simple to do. You don't need shooting bullets or you don't need any fancy light meters, just use a fan. And the advice I give you, start with full f-stops. So if you have 6 range of stops in your camera, start on the lowest setting and then 1 stop up, 1 stop up, 1 stop up and continue. And as soon as you're on the highest setting, you can probably already see where the fans are more sharp, and then between that area you just go up by 1/10 of a stop. And at that point you know exactly like, hey, this is where my strobes have the most stopping power. Why can this be interesting? If there's a huge range between your stopping powers, you can be able to actually, for example, make a model jump, freeze the face and have a little bit of motion on the feet by using 2 different strobes. For example, a very, very cheap strobe. We still have some gem base over here, which we can trigger with the Hansel strobes. And those are incredibly slow. They're like 1/400th of a second. So if I place those on the foot of the model and the strip light I angle only on the face and I set it nicely up, I could be able, I don't do it, but I could be able to have the bottom part a little bit blurry and the top part sharp. Now, I'm totally not interested in doing something like this, but we did it a few years ago when we started experimenting with this and it works. So if you are ever in a situation where you go like, I want to do that, it can be done. And that brings us to the next question. I want a wind machine as well. Why are they so expensive? Yeah, get a big fan. Very, very simple. Don't buy an expensive wind machine. Annemiek, you can take the wind machine out if you want. So don't buy an expensive wind machine. You can have wind machines that are very cheap from photography stores. Stay away from those. You can have very cheap wind machines from AliExpress. Stay away from those. If you buy a wind machine, get a good one. Not one that we have, but I would actually prefer. But again, we already have this one and they are pretty expensive, so I don't want to spend my money twice. If somebody's watching and they want us to review one, please feel free to contact me and send me one, of course. The nice wind machines, the turbines, yeah, a lot of power. So you can also buy those. My advice is very simple. If you're on a low budget, try to get one of those metal fans. I read somewhere that those create the most flow in the air. You also have those plastic ones with a lot of blades. They are very silent, and what I heard, they don't create a lot of flow in the air, so the hairs won't move. And when you get those with the 3 shark fins, those are great for using as a fan for your model. You can also use a wire leaf blower, sorry. I believe in our old studio we had one in a different room, so we had them on a remote control because those things are incredibly loud. And we just we made a hole in the wall, and we put a hose in there. And as soon as we wanted to use wind, I just took the hose in my hand or one of the assistants, and we pressed the button. And at that time, it was already loud, and there was a whole lot of wind coming from, and the models were just going like, "Whoa, what is this?" So that works like a charm. And otherwise, just use the fans. They're not that expensive. Okay, another one, trampoline. Yes and no. The trampolines work like a charm if you really want high jumps, but we don't need high jumps. She doesn't have to jump over something. So why not a trampoline? Very simple, height of the studio. Now, some studios, the model will actually end up hanging because she will hit her head on the ceiling and go through, and I'm just kidding. So don't use a trampoline if you don't really need it. The trampoline will add about this height, but as soon as the model jumps, it will get a lot higher. And if you want to make sure that your model still fits on the backdrop and you don't want to shoot from a high angle down, what you don't want to do with jump photography, it doesn't make any sense to use a trampoline unless your model really can't jump. And with jumping, I like to shoot from a lower angle, which already gives my model more motion upwards. So you need a studio with high ceilings. We have studio ceilings of about 3 meters 50, 3 meters 60, I think. And our really. And our paper is actually above the ceiling. So our paper is at above, I think, 375, 4 meters height, and then it comes down. The ClickPro backdrops I'm going to use now is how high, Annemiek? 3 meters high? 275?
Yeah.
275?
275.
Yeah, 275 high. And that's about as high as, or I mean, as low as you can go. This works. Get any lower, like 250, and the model will literally just jump out. Another tip I want to give you guys with motion, and sometimes I do retouching for other photographers. They send me images like, hey Frank, I really messed up. Can you save this? It's really important. I always help you guys out, and recently I did a retouch session for somebody, and he shot a lot of jumping athletic persons. How do you call it? Athletes, of course. And they were jumping, and he had this really nice white seamless backdrop in the gym, but he didn't bring a long lens. And the thing is, when you use a seamless paper backdrop, those paper backdrops are only 272 wide in meters. That means if you shoot a wide angle lens, your angle of view is like this. So however she jumps, there's a huge chance that she will actually disappear from the paper into the gym. So you need retouching. If you have a longer lens, like 200mm, and you go all the way in the back and you zoom in, your angle of view becomes this. And now the model can actually hold her hands very wide, still fit on the paper. One of the examples was our old studio where we had paper and I couldn't do any jumping models. And when you look at my very, very old shots, you can see that all my jumping models were doing like this. So the knees up, hands very close to the body, and then maybe do something with her head. And the very simple reason was otherwise they didn't fit on the paper. Then we broke out one wall, and that gave us 2 meters extra. And now you can actually see in the images that models start to do a little bit more like this, because then they could, and Photoshop at that time wasn't that good. So they fit on the paper. Nowadays, of course, with content aware fill, you don't have to worry about it. But anyway, they fit it on the paper. And then at one point I said, you know what, break out the other wall, and I want to go all the way to the back. And this is the part where with the same paper, I could make even 2 people jump and still get them on that seamless by shooting it with a 300mm lens. And at that point, you get into the realm of where you start to understand how important your angle of view is, but also how important the lens you choose, wide angle versus long lens. Today we are going to shoot with a wide angle, so I am going to shoot with 24-70 on the Sony. And it's a full frame camera, so it really gives me a lot of room to work with. And personally, I really like that. Another thing which I wanted to tell about that white paper is if you are in the situation like that photographer and you ask somebody else to retouch it, you shouldn't ask somebody else for the very simple reason. How could he have solved it very simply? I give you a few seconds to think about that. Okay, there we go. So when you shoot against white seamless paper and your model doesn't fit on the paper, there's one part of the body that should be on the paper, and that's the head and the hair. For the very simple reason, everything else we can literally in seconds select subject in Photoshop and there you go. Now you make a layer mask and the only thing you do is you just leave the hairs because they're already on the white backdrop. Everything that's outside the white backdrop, that's the part where you go like, okay, let's paint it white. The whole retouching part was like seconds for the images where the hair was on the white seamless, and it took me about half an hour to make a proper selection, not select subject, but a proper selection on all the images where the hairs weren't on the white seamless. So even if your model doesn't fit on the seamless, make sure that that part of your model is dead center on the seamless. Everything else you can just very simply in Photoshop fix. Okay, I am ready to start jumping. I will save you that one. We will let the model jump. Let me see if we have any more questions. No? Do we have any questions on Facebook, Annemiek?
No. I just checked.
Okay, I really like those shots with the organza. It looks really nice. You rock, girl.
Well,
Oops. What's going on?
The red light is, yeah, I'm zelf even vast.
The red light. Oh my. Oh, but in this case, Annemiek, let's change the red light to the side and let's use it as an accent light for now. So let's do it like this. Now, when you gel your lights, there's one thing that's very important that you have to realize. Your gel has to fit over the whole reflector. If you leave a part open, it can be that there's a reflection of white light hitting your backdrop, and you don't want it. That reflects from the gel back to your backdrop. So when you do it, make sure that the gel covers the whole reflector. I still hope that one day a manufacturer will create a system where you can very easily, for example with magnets, just switch over very fast on your reflector. There are some solutions out there and also some do-it-yourself that works like a charm, but I would love to see a commercial product with that. Okay, so let's use the strip light for now. Let's use it on a slightly angled position. Yeah, I like this. Let's put it on the setting with the most freezing power. Hey, that's when you know your strobes, right? Oh, this is going to be the scary part. 11.2, but in this case, let's turn this one off first, because I want to make sure that I only meter that one. 11.4, oh, that's on ISO 400, one moment. Let's go to ISO 320, 11.1, that should be okay. And the reason I'm doing this is because now I have the fastest freezing motion. Those strobes can go way higher. But if I go higher, I lose that freezing power. And then, in this case, I would rather shoot on ISO 320, and the noise isn't there anyway. So I would rather shoot on ISO 320 and have stopping power to the max than shoot on ISO 100 and have a little bit less stopping power. So it's a choice. In this case, I would love to shoot on F11, ISO 320. And this is why I also get those weird ISO readings, because I'm literally aiming my strobe for the perfect setting, and everything else I just adjust around that strobe setting. So let's go for ISO 320. There we go. And let's go for low. Okay. Let's first see how it looks. Oh, she looks a little bit spooky. But I do like it a lot. I love this lighting setup. Okay, let's aim the light a little bit more towards the backdrop, because we have that beautiful backdrop. Let's get a little bit of lens flaring from the red. It's a little bit too much. Yep, that's way too much. But this opens up possibilities, because when I add them together, I can now lower my ISO. There we go. I think this will be, yes, this is fine. Okay, so let's say you have a model and it's a really nice girl, like Brenda, but she can't jump. And she's a little bit afraid. Maybe she can jump, but she just doesn't know it yet. And those models you have a lot. They can jump, but they just don't know it yet. You have to tell them. So how do we do it? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a very low angle myself. And I'm going to shoot in portrait mode. Oh my. So this is the image which I'm going to get. And this is okay. And let's say, oh, Annemiek, what's going on? Oh. Okay. Let's see if she can jump. Can you jump on 3? 1, 2, 3. That's a shame, she can't jump. Okay, so how do we do this? Let's say she can't jump, just for the sake of the argument. You can't jump. Man, that looked terrible. My God, that's terrible. Can you look a little bit, move a little bit that way? Perfect, I want you in between those. A little bit that way. Step forwards, a little bit. There we go, perfect. Okay, you can't jump. Now, never say that to a model, of course, but in this case, let's say it. What we're going to try to do is, Brenda, you're scared, right, to jump? Yeah, you're wearing high heels. She's not. You're wearing high heels, and the reason I'm saying high heels, because this actually works with high heels. So you're wearing high heels and you're a little bit afraid, right? Also to go all out. It's so scary in the studio and everything. What's going on behind me?
He's putting the high cam a little bit lower.
Oh, okay, the high cam a little bit lower. You get it? The high cam a little bit lower. It's insane, right? Why is it called the high cam? Is it high? Tomorrow it's 420. Maybe the high cam is already high. I don't know. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't do drugs. Although we're Dutch, don't do drugs. Ooh, that's a good commercial. Although we're Dutch, don't do drugs. Okay, anyway, so let's say my model is really afraid to jump. Now, the thing is, we have to build confidence. And confidence is built by showing great images. So, Chewy? Chewy, what are you doing? Do you want to go in the picture? Do you want to jump? Let me see. Hey, do you want to jump? Or do you want to go there? This is our dog, Chewy. It's a Labradoodle. He's now 4 years old, and he can do imitations of absolutely nothing, except being lazy or being hyperactive. There's no in-between with Chewy. Right, Chew?
He knows the word spring.
He knows the word spring. Go to Annewiek. Go to Mom. There we go. So a little bit of an applause for our studio dog. Okay, so building confidence. Now, the best thing to do this is very simple. Just ease her in. If I say yes, can you please stand on your toes? 1, 2, 3, yes. Awesome. Now, the moment you stand on your toes, can you twist your head and step 1 step forward, please? And there we go. So as soon as I say yes, you stand on your toes and you twist your head. 1, 2, 3, go. Wow. And I never say wrong, because she is actually doing it wrong now. And you know why? Because she's moving towards the red light, and I don't want her moving towards the red light. Also, I see that the red light is a little bit too intense, so I'm not going to lower it. I'm actually going to move it. Now, the reason I'm not lowering it is I do want that lens flare, but I think it's a little bit too much on my model. So without wasting any energy of my model, I'm going to do a very quick test. There we go. This is way better. Do you see what I mean? This is more dark, more moody. When you twist your head, I want you to end up looking at the light. Are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, go. Nice. Now, as you can see already, of course, the model will see this and go like, oh, am I dead? Yes, you are. Can you put one hand in your side and the other hand just, ooh. There we go. Do the same thing. So stand on your toes and then twist your head. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice. So now I already got my model into that mood of, ooh, I can move. Ooh, I can do something cool. So now let's up the ante. As soon as you do it, just lift up your knee, but extend your foot. The reason I'm asking her to extend her toes down is that makes her leg look longer. If she keeps her toes like this, it will look really weird on the photo. But if she does it like this, so extend her foot, it will look like her foot is longer. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice, and now all the way up that knee. You're wearing everything underneath, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. Now, as soon as I got this in my model, I start to go like, okay, but now I want a little bit more S-curves in the body. I want a little bit more oomph. Okay, Brenda. Now, as soon as you do this, you are not allowed to jump, but I want you to do exactly like you're going to jump. So I want to make you curve your body, put your breast forward, and just go like, oof. And also twist that head, but look towards the strobe. So I want that really, like almost you're going to take off, but you're not. Yep. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Now, look at the difference here. We're still not there because I still have to coach my model. I want her to turn a little bit less, but if she would have turned a little bit less, this would be the perfect image. So what I'm now going to tell her is turn a little bit that way. Okay, now do the same thing again. 1, 2, 3, go. And there we go. So now we're getting there. Now we are getting more motion. But it still looks a little bit fake, right? And that's supposed to be because he's holding back. Now what I'm going to ask her, put 2 arms in your side. And what you do is you take a little bit of a hop, but you put up 1 knee up. So 1 foot extending down, and the other one knee up, extending down, and then look into the light while you're doing that. But you start looking there. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, look at that difference. Now for the first time she's floating. She's a little bit in the air. She has that feeling of wow motion. And this is the part where the model has confidence. And now it's very easy to make her jump. So ease her in, because sometimes the model just has to see that she's able to jump. Some models say, I can't jump. Yes, you can. Everybody can jump. Even I can do it. So make sure that you ease her slowly in. And by doing it on extending the foot, you're already learning her, before she starts to jump for the real part, you're already learning her every time you jump, hold your hands in your side, because we want to make sure that we see a little bit of your hands. Make sure that you look towards the light source with a twist of your head. So now she knows every time I jump, I twist my head and look into that light source. But she also knows when I jump, I extend my foot. So everything is now stored in her memory. And because she did it one by one, she now already knows what to do. So, I hope so. Are you ready to jump?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. And there you go. Now, I already told you that angles are important, and angles are actually everything. So, although I'm sitting on a chair, let's do it slightly better. And let's go down. Let's go a little bit closer to my model, met de dweiltechniek. Go really low. And this is the only thing I don't like about this Sony. It doesn't have a screen that I can angle up. Okay, are you ready? Just jump your heart out. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, and one foot extended down, one leg, and one really pulling up. 1, 2, 3, go. That's it, that's what I mean, yes. And now you can just work with your arms, just do whatever you find nice. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice. Maybe your knee up just higher. 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. And then look a little bit down while doing that. And keep your arm not too high. 1, 2, 3, go. Your top arm down. No, it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, go. Yes, there we go. That's nice. And a few more. Maybe also with a turn in the sky. So that you try to stand that way and then turn while jumping. 1, 2, 3, go. Ah, look at that. Wow. And maybe do the same thing, but only stand on your toes while you turn. Is that possible? And then one knee up. 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. Look at that. And now maybe lean a little bit. What should we do? Lean backward and your chin to your chest. 1, 2, 3, go. Now, between you and me, Brenda can't hear this. It doesn't make any sense what I'm saying. The reason I'm saying it is to make the model look at ease and make her own jumps. Because if I tell her to go do this, she's trying to copy it. But if I go, okay, do this and then touch that, and she doesn't really get it, she will do something that she thinks is right, and I get unique shots. Right? Okay, a few more. Are you ready? Are you tired already?
No.
No, right. Okay, 1, 2, 3, jump. Nice. And now without the arms extending, but do it like this, like a power move. 1, 2, 3, go. That's perfect. Only now, tilt your head that way. Move a little bit this way and that way. Perfect. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. That's the one. One more. 1, 2, 3, go. Perfect. One more. Final one. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, now the real final one. Make sure that I can still see that arm. 1, 2, 3, go. Perfect. And now the last one. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, not too much turn. Just a little bit. 1, 2, 3, go. Too much turn. So try to keep your chest area towards me and your face towards there. See, if you look on the image, you see that you're turned a little bit too much. And look at your foot on the bottom. It looks a little bit like it's aimed that way.
Yeah.
Yeah? So try to solve that by maybe jumping up and then making the twist without keeping your foot on the floor. Now, this is where, again, between us, Brenda can't hear this. What I'm now doing is actually being a little bit more direct. With jumping, it's important that first I gain her trust. Every image that comes in is great. Every image I love. Every image is amazing and wow, wonderful. Because at that time, she loses every fear that she has, because every image is right. Now that I know that she's having fun and she's jumping around and yeah, man, I'm doing this, yeah, man, I'm having fun. This is where I start to go like, okay, now look at the image. Do you see that your body is a little bit too much tilt? Yes, I see it. Okay, try that differently. Now look at your foot. Do you see that it's crooked? Yes, okay, try that differently. So at first I don't give any attention to mistakes she made. I only want to make sure that I get her off the air, or sorry, in the air. I want to make sure that I make sure that she knows to look towards the camera or towards the strobe, depending on what you want. My lighting has to be correct, my angle has to be correct. And then as soon as I have some warm-up shots, now I only need one. I want to make sure that my model knows exactly what to do, and we're going to fine-tune every single jump after this. So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. And that's actually immediately the right one. So that's boring. Let's forget that one. Let's do it again. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. And that's also perfect. Can't you jump wrong anymore? What's going on? You are now destroying my whole live stream. You should jump wrong and I should correct you. You see what's happening? She's having fun. I'm having fun. The whole photo shoot is fun. Let's imagine music blaring around, people going like, oh my God, look at those images, Brenda, you look awesome. What do you think that does for her energy? Energy goes sky high. And at that time, she will jump and she will move and she will twist her hair and she will have a lot of fun. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
And this is during a live stream, so you're even nervous now. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Awesome. And the final one. This is really the final one. There we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Thank you so very much. You are an amazing model. Okay, now the most important shot of the whole day. And that's the shot with the color checker. Now, the color checker, of course, is very important because we want to make sure that our colors are correct. So let me grab my color checker. And the thing with the color checker, Brenda, you already know this, hold it in front of your face. Don't cover the squares and hold it as flat as possible towards the light source. So not towards me. Oh, perfect, towards the light source. Okay, hold your fingers away from the color checker. Okay, we want to make sure that it's as flat as possible lit. And now you have to make a funny face, otherwise the software won't work. And make a big smile. Want to, yay, awesome. Software does work, but we always love to have a little bit of fun with this one. Thank you so very much. The main thing is the color checker has to be flat. So you can't have anything with like light fall off or shadows. It has to be as flat as possible. Okay, let's go behind the computer. Perfect. Looks really, really nice. Okay, let's switch over to my cam. Okay, we got a lot of questions from you guys about Cascable. And I want to show you a little bit what Cascable does. So we have picture-in-picture, so we're going to go for desktop only. Now, one of the things that I love about Cascable is when I turn this away, you just... let me do picture-in-picture small so you guys can also see me. There we go. So the thing I love about Cascable is that, one, you saw me today shooting and it's incredibly fast. I still am blown away with this. The fastest performance I ever had with tethering was actually Capture One. And this one just blows Capture One out of the water. It's at least more stable and faster. And of course, it's because it's on an iPad. So you have that M1 chip, which is insanely fast. And you have an operating system that doesn't do anything else than just get those images in. Now, the thing about Cascable, what I really like, is it's not what you see here. It's actually something else. And that's what you see here. When I click here, you see tethering. Now, during the workshop, I am shooting on the iPad Pro. And this is in a sandbox. And the sandbox is great, but it's not perfect. Because a sandbox is a sandbox. So that means that when I go to Files, let me go to Files, I really can't see anything from Cascable here. So where are my files? And that's the thing what I really like about them. So when I start it up, you can create so-called aliases. So by pressing here, and you can go for storage links on this iPad and tethering. And it means that, and it also works with online storage like Dropbox, and they're working on OneDrive. And you can also use external hard drives. So what is the big deal here? It stores the images on the iPad, but you can also store it on a second or third location. And that's a big deal, because normally in the field we will have an external hard drive connected to our iPad Pro, meaning all the images I shoot are in the iPad Pro, but also on the external hard drive. Now, if you forget this, so how do you get them out of the sandbox? That's easy. Select all, hold, and just drag them to tethering. You see the copy queue. and it takes a little bit of time, and then it will be in that tethering folder. And from here on, I can just import it in Lightroom, and when I'm home, it's uploaded to the cloud and in Lightroom. If you don't want to use Lightroom, of course, the cloud, you can of course also drag them to your Mac via, how this is called, universal control. Another thing that's really nice about Cascable, besides being able to store it on 2 locations, is actually, of course, you can do live view. You can also do this. When you shoot with a neutral density filter, you can literally just calculate very quickly. If I shoot it on a 15th of a second and I'm using an ND0, that's 1/15 of a second. But what if? And there you go. This is really handy for landscape photographers or photographers that use ND filters all the time with astro. I don't know if they use it for, they don't use it for astrophotography, of course, but for landscapes, for freezing, for example, the water, for doing maybe street photography where you want to blur the backdrop or make sure that there's nobody registering on the image. Another thing that they do is, of course, the map mode. Now in this case we don't have any map here, we don't have the GPS on, but if you're on a location, it's always cool, of course, to store the GPS location in your images, and that's something that I love to do. We do a lot of workshops also on location, and for example in the UK or America or wherever, and it's just fun to know, like, hey, where was this shot taken? You just zoom in and you go like, hey, that's there on the map. Another thing, this is especially of course for a live view. My camera is now off. But you can do live view, you can shoot from an other position, like for example if you're in a trade show environment or maybe in a sports arena and you want to control your camera from a distance, this is the part where you can do live view and shoot your images. You can change all the settings, of course, also on your camera. Another thing that I really like is the recipes. You can build recipes, and of course you can also use new windows. Now this one, you can also do sharp stars. And you might wonder like, hey, what is this? Now, when you shoot stars, and I never do it, I still want to do it one day, but it's always so late when it's dark, you know, or cold. So somehow, I don't know, maybe one day when I'm retired. Never. So what does it do? When you shoot stars, the Earth rotates and the stars don't. The stars also rotate, but they rotate differently. Now, when you use a certain lens and a certain shutter speed, you can make sure that those stars are not registered as moving. They still move, but it's so faint that you don't see it. But if you use a very long shutter speed and, for example, a very wide lens, you get these star streaks. Now, this is actually to prevent star streaks. So let's say I want to shoot the Milky Way on 8mm. I believe that's how they often shoot the Milky Way. I will literally go like, okay, when do I have sharp stars? Now let's say I have a Canon or a Sony full frame camera. So go here, 1, 2, 3 crop, no, there we go, 1.0 crop. Then I need to go maximum for 75 seconds. So if I stay below 75 seconds, all my stars will be sharp. If I go above 75 seconds, my stars will look a little bit like streaks. Now let's see the difference, and this is the cool part. Watch this. If I change the distance, the lens, this is why they use probably a lot of wide angles. So let's say you want to shoot the Milky Way at 400mm. Or 200. Doesn't make any sense to go higher probably. 3 seconds. So make sure that if you get a calculator, if you want to shoot stars, that you use a star calculator. In this case, it's embedded in the software. But there's more. Now, when I teach workshops, I don't want people to see everything that I see. Logical, right? We don't want them to see all those images, and maybe I don't want them to see the histogram because it doesn't make any sense anyway with studio strobes and light meters. This is the cool part. You can go into your settings from Cascable, and you can literally go for light or dark theme. I love that. All the software that doesn't have a dark theme, why? You can go for your app icon. You can even choose different icons. In my case, I use modern, but you can also use the phase one. You can use lens. I just like it that they give you that option. And another thing, and this is the part where it gets really cool. This was already there before ISO 16, I believe. iOS 16. I can use a dedicated external display. Today you saw a mirrored display, so that means that you literally see what I'm seeing normally. But I can also say, okay, I only want those images full screen on a 16:9 screen. And this is something that's available since ISO 16. So before that it was just a square. Now you have a full screen 16:9 preview. This is absolutely changes everything when you do presentations on a trade show floor or on a stage or during a workshop. You are now able to send full images to a dedicated screen that doesn't show anything else except those images, and you can project a histogram over it, as you can see here, show metadata or show histogram. So in other words, you see the metadata from the image, very easy with workshops. So now you don't see it, of course, but underneath you see how the camera was set up. And of course, you can then also see the results. And finally, of course, you have some stuff like geotagging and photo preview. So you can show the preview. So in my case, what I always do is I do it manually. So when I shoot, the image just stays there until the next one comes in. But you can also say after 2 seconds, just go back to the overview, the film preview view, the film strip. You don't want that, right? Okay. So are there any more questions on YouTube? Are there any more questions on Facebook? No more questions? Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would highly recommend you guys to check out our workshops. And these are in Dutch. And at the moment we do them once a week. And this weekend, for example, we have the workshop fashion, portraits, lighting. And the cool thing about the workshops is we never know what we're going to do. We have this theme like glamour or smoke and props or movement. And we start all our workshops with a Q&A, question and answer. And during the Q&A, people can literally say, hey, Frank, I have a problem with a white backdrop. And we will set up a white backdrop. Or people go like, I really struggle with Rembrandt lighting. And then one of the setups will be Rembrandt lighting. So every single workshop is 100% tailor-made, custom for you as the visitor. So that's always cool, right?
And we have the workshop in Germany coming up.
Yeah, we have a workshop in Germany coming up. Which date, Annemiek, is that?
It's May 13th.
Okay, May 13th, we have a workshop in Germany. Just drop us an email if you want to be there. It's in Landschaft Park. And it's on a Saturday. And we still have some seats left there. The Sunday doesn't, but the Saturday we still have seats left. So make sure you're there. We are there with our model Nadine. And it's called The Fairy Tale, I believe.
Yes.
It's going to be freaking awesome. We have this amazing styling in fairy tale style.
The 4th year that we're going to try and do this.
It's the 4th year that we're going to try to do it. So this time Corona won't bite us, I hope. And just make sure that the event isn't cancelled or that we get sick. So we're going to be in total isolation for a week before. I'm just kidding. But we're going to be very careful. And Nadine is there with awesome styling, and the location, Landschaft Park, is just, it's amazing, it's cool. So make sure you register for that workshop in Germany. Underneath you can see our Patreon. It starts at $1 a month. You get portfolio reviews. We have a chat where you can ask any questions. I try to respond the same day. And finally, if you think like, oh my, Frank, this was awesome, subscribe to our YouTube channel, but most of all, go to our shop, because there we have real in-depth tutorials that go way, way beyond what you see here. I know it looks like Digital Classroom already tells you all the stuff that you need to know. We are literally scratching the surface that you can find on the tutorials. Now, if you are also interested in retouching, we have a 7.5 hours Photoshop and Lightroom tutorial on sale there for, I believe, 99 euros. Now, we are not the kind of guys that go like, it was 10,000 euros and now it's only 99. No, it's with us, you pay and you get a lot of stuff for what you pay, and we don't believe in giving 100% discounts. Sometimes we give a little bit of discounts, but most of the time we just try to keep the tutorials fairly priced. We spend a lot of time creating them and they have a lot of information. So you get what you pay for, a bunch load of information. It's just jam-packed. So make sure you check that out. And also all our products like Rogue, IQwire, ClickProp backdrops, and of course the tutorials and books are available on our shop. From my side, I would like to thank Brenda very much for being here. I would like to thank Emmeloord and Brian for helping me with all the cameras and all the other gear and not destroying the whole studio in the progress. And we will see you again next time. And when is the next time, Emmeloord?
May 17th.
May 17th. And May 6th is my birthday. So if you want to send us a card, make sure you do. Or gifts, of course. I love Batman and guitars. So just figure it out. And Batman and guitars are always happy. And if you have a Batman that plays guitar, I will mention you online. I will mention you anyway online if you send me a gift. That's also cool. And a week. Do we forget something to mention? No, right?
No.